In some ways, considered some sort of I don't understand, but he didn't sound like more of it was Hispanic. I can almost understand. He didn't sound like What? I actually recorded it. When they program the radio, what do they it's not all of them. Yeah, so they are coordinated so that the frequencies are they're issued the frequency, they're in geographically. Yeah, so I know there's one in Moab.
1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
They're tied together, so they're all the same frequency. Transmitting on one, transmitting on the other. But they are the mountains in between, so they're tied together through so that's kind of a unique system that, I don't think anybody else in the United States has I'm not linked, but on the same page. So 41462 is for both of them. That's the
Testing.
Probably more than 2. So you're talking about Lake Mountain. There's actually a whole bunch up there. Ardmore has one up there. Utah amateur it's just that theirs is linked to the internet, so IRL you can connect with it. We've got one up there, but it's linked to all of our other repeaters. Yeah, that ours is really focused radio operators, bipolar, or that's kind of the whole focus of our help new people get going.
Try to get on the
7
That's why I got on that. So if I'm just going to go simplex,
yeah, if you look at the ARRL plan, there's a section on the meter band that says specifically for simplex. It doesn't mean people don't set up repeaters in there. Standing with you, that's fine. But if he's separate, I mean, we're like miles and miles apart. Are you guys ready? All right, looks like it's time for us to get started. Once again, if you haven't signed in the back, please sign in. If you just came in and haven't got a raffle ticket yet, please do that. They're backed by the sign-in sheets, so do both of them at the same time. Just for your information, we are going to try and broadcast this meeting on YouTube tonight, do YouTube live session. So hopefully everything works. I think we're getting it going over there. My name is Chad, WE7CB, and would like to welcome you out to the meeting tonight. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. This is a new remote. I don't know how to make it work. There we go. Okay. We'll turn the time over to Jeff. He's going to go over our activities. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up this summer. So without any further ado, Jeff.
Say what? The ones I emailed you. The big PowerPoint. Okay. So first of all, coming up, we have Strawberry Field Day. Field Day up at Strawberry Reservoir. Are you logged into your email so we can pull those up?
Yes.
Because those are pretty big. Yeah. So just really quick, we're going to go over the summer field day stuff that's going to be coming up next. Actually, we'll do that real fast right now. So this is probably one of the biggest events that we do. This is probably one of the ones that's probably the craziest. I don't know. I think this one's probably even more crazy than Winter Field Day because that's really local and close, and we can hurry and run home if we get too cold. Versus this is a little bit further out there. So this will be our third year operating for Field Day. Just by the raise of hands, who here has actually been or participated in a field day in any way, shape, or form, whether at home? Okay, cool. So most of you haven't. Who has never participated, just by the raise of hands? Okay, so everybody that's sitting next to them, make sure you grab them and haul them up with you. So we're gonna not that one. Go to Gmail or your email for the.
What's your name? Oh, Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Dang it.
For the it's the ones that I. It was part of the leadership meeting.
Okay.
Nope, not that one. Keep going.
Almost there.
Not that one.
Jeff.
Okay, yeah, that one. Okay, so any one of those should be fine. Oh, that should be fine too. If we just want to do that straight from here. Okay, cool. We got it. Here we go. I want to say. Okay, perfect. So UARK Field Day. What, where, when, why, how, what in the world. So what is Field Day? Basically, it's one of the largest contests I would argue probably in the world, truth be told. They estimate over 35,000 operators or clubs will participate in this event. Basically what we do is we want to set up in less than optimal conditions. So we're running off of battery backups, generators, solar power. We're trying to avoid running off of commercial power. And we're going to try to work as many stations as possible within 24 hours. So we're going to go from noon Saturday to noon Sunday. We don't really get to choose those times. That's just the dates that are chosen by ARRL back east. And we only have a very limited amount of time that we are actually allowed to set up. So that did not translate very well. So when does it go? A lot of us are going to actually start heading up Wednesday, Thursday time. We're getting a permit from the Forest Service to do our event up there again. We have to have a permit because we're over like 35 people. So because it's a Forest Service, we're technically not allowed to actually reserve or hold any spots. Same with UARC, same with the Bridgerland Amateur Radio Club. Anyone that uses the Forest Service area, you're actually not allowed to reserve spots. But last time we had some horse trailers in there with us and whatnot. It was no big deal. Some guys came over. I think they eventually ran away because we were probably bugging them way more than they were bugging us. So, but we would like neighbors anyway because it draws a little bit more of an interest, and we can have some public interest as well. So a lot of times we'll try to go up there, try to help reserve the spot. It's up at Strawberry Reservoir. Is anybody familiar with the Co-op Creek area? So it's going to be up there again. The contest actually starts June 23rd, and it's going to start at noon, and it will go, and it happens to just be noon Mountain Time. So we just happen to luck out. So it goes from noon Mountain Time until Saturday, the 24th. Some of the things, again, just kind of going over, we've looked at a gazillion different sites. Why are we choosing this? We wanted to find a place that was close to home, somewhere that was less than 1 hour, a public location. We want public to come in and actually join us and operate the GOTA station, get on the air. We wanted a place that wasn't private land, somewhere where it might be a business that was welcoming us, but then maybe a rollover in management. We don't have that anymore. Attendance, we wanted to be able to have a lot of people come. We were looking for no fees. We needed to be able to run generators 24/7. We didn't want sprinklers to come on us in a park. So that's like, for example, one of the reasons why we don't do it in the Orem City Center park. Low RFI, low noise. There's like no noise up there. 1,000-foot diameter. We have to have everything within 1,000-foot diameter. So we've got that as part of the maps you'll see. Porta potties. We're going to be bringing up porta potties for those, so that way you guys can do your business in luxury. No sprinklers. I put that on there twice because it's really important. And we don't have any sort of weird time constraints. We're not having anyone tell us, yes, you can be here, but you can only be here from 11 to noon, and then you can be here from 6 to noon. Nothing weird like that. So up at Strawberry Reservoir, this is more or less the layout. All of this information is online. So if you go to the uvarc.club website, I have links to all of this, to the maps, to the videos, to the directions, all of this. So don't worry about trying to copy this down. Same with these directions. So basically you're going along Highway 40, right? And you pass like the pass off where you'd go to the main marina, the Strawberry Marina. You pass that, you keep going. There's going to be the Co-op Creek turnoff where you're going to go up that road, probably, I think it was like, I've got it here, 2.9 miles, and you're there. You're pretty much there. I think it's going to be kind of hard to miss. There's going to be a bunch of trailers, and you could probably take a minivan on this. I mean, it's really smooth gravel road. Really, the Forest Service does a pretty good job. Yeah, so we do have there is a general store over at Daniel Summit as well, the marinas. One of the considerations is it is actually from the mouth of Provo Canyon to the actual field day where you're going to be parking and getting out of your car. I think it was like 45 minutes. So if you're down in the valley, add 15 more minutes, you're pretty much more or less generally under an hour. It will get cold. Bring a coat, bring long pants. I was woefully unprepared with my sleeping bag last time. It got to 31 degrees Fahrenheit at night, and it was 87 degrees Fahrenheit in the daytime. So Don't let that throw you off. Bring sunscreen, bring ways to keep cool. We're going to be having a ton of water. Carl and some of the other guys are going to be bringing up a lot of water bottles. I think, so I think we're going to have a lot there, but I'd still bring more water. I don't want anyone getting dehydrated. Generators are allowed. Barbecue grills are also allowed. Bug spray. Bugs weren't really that bad, I don't think, last year. Campfires are welcome, but please, at the end of whenever you're done using your campfire, please douse them. So just really quick, I did add this in. Right now we have a critical fire warning, a very high fire warning for our area due to the heat and due to the dryness. So I just want to give you guys just one quick reminder. I want to give a special, where's Kenneth? Is Kenneth here? I'd like Kenneth to stand up. Kenneth? Yes, you are the celebrity for the day. And let's see, where's Lauren? Lauren, I want you to stand up too. He's way in the back. So these two fine gentlemen, I have a special prize for them. And what's that about? So Kenneth was one of the ones that doused his fire really, really well. When I went to it, it was completely out. There was no white embers. And Lauren helped me go around and put out all the other fires. He went to stay there with, he was going to camp there, and they were in their trailer. And we ended up basically draining his camper to be able to use the water to finish actually dousing all the other fires. And 24 hours later, there were 5 fires that consumed 80 acres within less than 1 mile from where we were camping. So it wasn't us. It was someone actually drove along the road and lit it on fire. So, but I do want to give a special thanks to those two. It was greatly appreciated. So they get the Water Pail Award. So that's what those are. And a little free shovel with it. So, yeah. So there you go. That's your guys' time. So a huge thank you. Really fast, what we're going to do is just lay out. We're going to have 3 stations. There's going to be 3 stations operating under K7 UVA, the call sign for the club. We're going to have a GOTA station, which Noji is going to be running. I'm guessing it's probably going to be using the same club call, the K7 GSL. Kids and family are more than welcome, and we'd love to have the kids come back. We had an absolute wonderful time with the GOTA station on 100 watts and a wire. You guys have probably heard that story. People absolutely love hearing kids operating on field day. Or people, if you're brand new, it's a great time to operate. We're going to have everything within the 1,000 foot. Bring your own food, bring your own water, porta potties. We will be doing a potluck dinner again. I'm going to be going and picking up the chicken. We're going to be cooking it ahead of time and probably reheating it there. That worked out really, really well last time. And then everybody just bring a side dish. If you are on Facebook and you go into the Facebook event, inside of the Facebook event, there is actually a potluck kind of sign up where you can pick a side dish, chips, paper plates, etc. And then also,
that's 6 p.m. Saturday, right?
No.
What was that?
Yes.
Yes, correct. 6 p.m. Saturday, yes. All right, so bring your own RV, camper, trailer, tent, etc. Volunteers and equipment. I have a list, a very large Excel spreadsheet that has basically everything that we're trying to coordinate. If you go on and you see something on that spreadsheet that you can help out with, ping me. I also have a volunteer form. Anyone that signs up on the volunteer form, I actually give them full editing permissions on that, so you can kind of go in and fill it out and whatnot. We're still kind of looking for some backup antennas, batteries, generators. We've got a fair number of generators, but I'd like to have 2 generators per station. So if something happens, and we have had issues where one of them's gone out or one's had a severe RFI issue and we want to swap it out. Feed lines, masts. I mean, we've repaired feed lines on the fly. We've literally made antennas on the fly. It is kind of a lot of fun. Laptops for logging and stuff like that's all being taken care of by Jake, K7VA. We've already got the logging and stuff set down as well. This is also on the website, but this is if you're looking to volunteer and you see something that you'd like to fill in on that spreadsheet. If you go to this URL, it'll take you right there, and then I can start adding you. Again, everything on uvarc.club. If you click on the posts up at the top, it'll take you straight to the field day. Do we have any quick questions? I'm not going to go over field day operation because that's going to be covered by our guest tonight. And then, yeah, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're a guest. Do we have any questions or comments?
By the way, he's not a guest. He's actually a member.
Well, our member, our guest speaker, our member guest speaker.
I came in late. Did you already go over how to get to wherever this is?
Yeah. So it's going to be up by, are you familiar with the co-op area up by Strawberry Reservoir?
No.
The ladders. Are you familiar with Strawberry Reservoir at all?
No.
Okay. So I have a video.
Does someone want to post a map?
It's already posted. So if you go to uvarc.club, it has text instructions, a map, a link to an interactive map on Google Maps. It has a video that actually shows you how to drive to get there, which I actually have on the next slide. And if we have time, would we have time, Noji?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and actually play that. I don't think it's going to play the pretty audio that I added into the video, but the video is what we're after anyway. Do we have any other questions before we roll over that one, Colton?
Are you guys going to freeze the digital trailer again?
Oh my goodness, it was so cold. I'm bringing a propane heater for the digital trailer this time. Any other questions? Okay, cool. Yeah, this is a lot of information. That's one of the reasons I'm trying to push everything onto the website. So then that way you guys know. So what you're doing is you're driving. We've just driven up Provo Canyon at this point in time, and we're entering Heber. Right there to the left is Sportsman's Warehouse. Don't turn in there unless you want to go to Sportsman's Warehouse. They have some hand warmers. What you're going to do is turn right or southeast onto Highway 40. At that point in time, you go up Daniels Canyon. We've just skipped Daniels Canyon. We're now at the summit. I didn't want to bore you with that. You'll see you're going to pass Strawberry River.
There's construction almost to the top.
Yeah. So you're not going to take that first turn off, right? And we've got mile markers listed on all of this. So if you print this off, you've got the mile markers, you've got the number of miles, we even have GPS coordinates and waypoints in there. I mean, I've tried to pretty much throw as much information as possible. So right there to the right, that's where the marina is. So see that right there where that white car is? Don't turn right there. You'd go to the marina.
If you see a white car.
Yeah, especially if you see a white car. Exactly. So you're going to keep driving. Right there to the right, so see that Co-op Creek to the left? That is the salt facilities for the highway UDOT. Thank you. For UDOT. If you pass that, you've gone too far. It's like literally a 1/10 of a mile. So this is the flat area right here, the nice smooth gravel road. That's a really, really nasty outhouse. I recommend not even looking at it. Stick with the porta potties. So this is called the Co-op Creek area. If you turn right, it's actually called something else. But so I'm not going to say it because I don't want to confuse you. Go left. And yeah, I mean, it's really smooth. I was driving like 45 along here and I had a moose running literally side by side and my kids are just plastered the window. But that gives you an idea as to how smooth that road is, right?
That's a lie. I did 5 miles an hour and I still picked up dust.
Well, not dust. You just have to outrun the dust.
Faster we go, the smoother it gets.
So right there, just really quick, there is a very, very tiny turnoff that's 2.9 miles in, and that's it. So all those trailers on the right, all of this is the whole area. Everything to the right here, they've got it. There's a nice big loop. And you don't have to camp within that 1,000 feet. You can set up a campsite anywhere. I think it was 90 feet along any one of those roads is what you're allowed to camp within, according to the Forest Service. So this is the big loop. We had the GOTA right there to the right last time, actually a little bit further. You can fit a ton of people in here. The other thing that's going to be a huge benefit is that you have, I drove up here to this site on, I think it was March 6th with no snow. So we drove all the way up here, no problems at all. What that means is the hunters with the horse trailers that will typically park lower and then take their horses up higher are not going to be probably competing with us for this space because since there's no snow, they're going to actually go up higher, park their trailers up there, and then probably continue to go up. So that is actually good news for us. So droughts do have their benefits. But anyways, that's more or less it. So yeah, I'll turn it back over to
More shade there than it looks like in that video.
yeah, and there's a lot more shade there as well. So Noji, do you want to take over? Or let's see, actually no, I'm still my turn. I'm jumping the gun here. I'm pinging Noji apparently on this. Come on. There we go. All right, so Strawberry Reservoir. There we go. Okay, so we just went over that. You guys are very, very familiar with that. Okay, so we have a special event station, K7T, where this is going to be in honor of the pioneers. It was, what year was it? 120. What was it?
So 1847, that's 171 years.
Yeah, 171 years ago. I don't think any of us here remember that. 171 years ago. So we're going to be doing a special event station here in Orem City. It's going to be at a park. It's going to go from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m., I believe. So, yeah, and so we're going to be looking for volunteers to run that special event station at Sierra Park Saturday, July 21st. So put that on your calendars. The other thing, again, this is a little bit further out there. The Utah Valley Amateur Radio Club is doing the swap meet down in Spanish Fork, kind of to offset distance, timing, everything like that with some of the others. It's going to be $5 a person. This is going to be kind of a fundraiser to try to help raise money for the club. So since we don't have any dues. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chad.
Okay, I'm going to steal your thunder here, Carl. This Saturday morning, 10 to 3, Highland Glen Park, we're having the 76ers barbecue. There's the sign-up sheet that Jeremy's put together out on the 76 Facebook page. Come out. It's going to be a great time. We'll have raffles, doing barbecue chicken again. The rest is potluck, so you can sign up on the sheet or just bring whatever you want. It's going to be great. It's always a fun time. Also, free fishing day in Utah that day, so you can come fish at the pond. Seen a lot of people fishing up there. A couple of people catching fish, so a lot of fun. Anything else I should say, Carl? There is raffles, and I think there's at least 3 radios and $50 gift certificate. That's how we finance that event. The meet and that event is with the raffle. So, 76 members get a raffle ticket, and everybody else can. No, I don't think we set a price on them, but everybody else can buy raffle tickets to increase their chances. Okay. Any questions about the barbecue on Saturday? It's going to be great. Hope to see you there.
What time do they plan to start eating lunch?
Noon. Do lunch at noon.
We'll go from about 10 till 3, and there's going to be a special event station there, and we'll be there on site, getting food ready and setting up and stuff, and we'll try and eat about noon.
Jeremy told me we actually have the place all day long, so whenever you want to show up, we should be good.
It's going to be 97 that day.
97 degrees, so bring a hat, some sunscreen, bring your swimsuit if you want to go jump in the pond. A lot of people do that. It's going to be fun. Okay, the next event will be the UVARC Summer Potluck Dinner. That's at the Orem City Friendship Center, which is straight down there about 4 blocks or 3 blocks on the other side of the big quadrant here. That will be Thursday, July 5th, so a month from tonight, 6 to 8 p.m. That's in place of our normal club meeting. So we hope to see you all there. Again, it's potluck, so bring your favorite dish. It's always a great event, and we always have a lot of fun. Yeah, hopefully the air conditioning is working. Okay, service opportunities. We're going to turn the time over to Trevor.
Okay. So also on June 9th is the Orem Summerfest.
And these are things you can volunteer to help out with ham radio. The Art City Days in Springville is also on June 9th. And the Freedom Festival coming up on July 4th. They've got a parade and fireworks and all sorts of fun things. Kachina Mosa 100, I'm not sure what that is. Is anybody, is that a bike race? Okay. They can contact Karen if they want to participate in these. Kachina Mosa 100 is a 100K foot race. Oh, it's a foot race? Yeah. Hobble Creek Canyon. Okay, Hobble Creek Canyon foot race. And apparently Karen knows about these.
Yeah, so Karen, KG7UR usually does this for us. She's actually working the Summerfest tonight, so we want to excuse her. But if you've got any question about these service opportunities, get hold of Karen and she'll steer you in the right direction.
Okay. So, and these are good opportunities to practice your ham radio skills and serve the community. And then if we have an emergency, then you'll be trained to help out that way through this as well. So the Moab 240, October 12th to 16th, and more. Okay. On a personal note, Aubrey is not here, so I will do this. But first, we have a silent key this month, and Curtis is going to come up and talk about that.
So we lost John Forbes Sunday at about 4:30 p.m. And those of you who don't know John, you at least if you were listening to the radio, occasionally you'd hear John. He was the one who would get on and talk about all kinds of religion, temple marriage, and all of this. And you know, those of us who don't rattle on about that would probably get a little nervous. But he loved it. He was a real church-going kind of guy. His wife had a couple of strokes quite a few years ago, and Jack cared for her every step of the way until he was diagnosed with lymphoma. And the doctor told him that he only had a little while to live, but Jack said, no, I'm going to make it to my birthday. So Jack was one of the first 76ers, and the way he got on with the 76ers was BBQ gave him a radio, gave him an ICOM, and that was the only radio we had. Well, it wasn't one of those you could program with a computer and wasn't that easy to use. So Jack expressed an interest. I guess Trevor was the one who kind of sparked it because Trevor started a steak ham radio thing and Jack found out about it and he got all excited and he wanted to be a part of it. So we got him into some radios, and the next thing you know, he was really excited about building a little teeny wood thing to put his two Baofeng radios in. He was so excited, but he wanted to talk all the way from Idaho to Nevada, and he didn't know what to do that. So thanks to Carl, we got him a J-pole antenna, and then we picked him up a nice 50-watt radio, and Jack had a blast the last few weeks of his life, probably a couple of months of his life. He had never had so much fun in his life. The one thing about Jack, you would know if you had spoken with him on the radio, you would say, I think it was KC6IFB. Are you there? Yeah, this is Jack. Well, Jack, how you doing? Yeah, you know, I need to tell you about, so Jack, he could not hear a word you were saying most of the time. We got him some speakers. We turned the volume way up. You know, that is the nicest thing. That is the best radio I've ever seen. And those speakers are amazing. But for some reason, he forgot to put his what do you call those things? Hearing aids in. So it didn't do him any good anyway. Well, Jack promised the doctor he was going to make it to his birthday. And he was doing great, sailing along. In fact, a few days before he passed away, he brought me a loaf of bread of all things. Here, I want you to have this loaf of bread. I made it for a whole bunch of neighbors. He was always kind and giving. So Jack was headed for his birthday, but anybody who heard him, he always said, I miss my Betty. It's time to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. So we tried to give him the funnest time of his life just before he went home. And the flu, he caught the flu. And he was on oxygen. And so you mix not being able to breathe, having lymphoma cancer, and having that terrible flu that everybody had. And Jack just kind of quietly went to sleep. And at 4:30 on Sunday, he silent keyed KC6 IFB. Thanks.
All right. So are any of these new hams here tonight? If you are, please stand up. All right. And we do have an upgrade. Is Brent here? Yeah. All right. Congratulations. Okay. So tonight, our featured presentation, Gearing Up for Field Day with Bryce Anderson.
My wife told me I needed my water, so. This works.
Do you want to run it from there, or do you want to copy it off and then run it locally?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. What's it called?
It's that one.
This one here?
Yeah.
I'll copy it off. Okay. There we go. And then you can go up and down, or you can go left and right on the arrows. Either way.
Up and down there. Okay.
Not this.
These two. Okay. Thanks. Hi, I'm Bryce Anderson, K7UA, and I'm going to start off by admitting that every single one of you here knows more about what's going on in the 2 meter and the VHF scene than I do. I do, however, know something about working HF and about contesting. See if I can get this together first time. I am a serious DX. Excuse me. I am a serious DXer and a middleweight contester. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight is HF. I hope we're having a little bit of fun, and maybe even some of you will learn something. It's said in this month's QST that we have 30,000 new hams this year. I'd like to know how many here are new hams within that time? And how many have, maybe you've been licensed longer than that, but you have never been on HF? Oh, good. And how many would like to make an HF QSO that never have? Okay. Well, you're the ones I want to talk to tonight. Well, like I said, I'm a serious DXer and a contester, but mostly I'm just a nerdy old engineer. And in this month's Dear Annette column, I'm going to answer the question that she asked. Why do most people that are into ham radio seem to be elderly? Well, I'm a sample of that. Since computers weren't around, it was the main thing that smart young kids did to get into electronics. And that's how I got started. When I was in 7th grade, my dad took me to visit a guy that he knew. He was Tyler Rogers, W7JFQ, and he lived in Linden. He had an HF station. He had a homebrew transmitter the size of a refrigerator. It was covered with knobs and dials and meters and all kinds of colored lights. The thing was awesome. I'd never seen anything like it. And to show it off, he talked clear to Oklahoma. And to top that, he had a QSL card on his wall from Germany. That visit changed my life. Well, my father had been interested in ham radio. And he had been in the Civil Air Patrol. And we had this beast of a radio that came out of a World War II bomber that was our 2-meter radio. Put out about 8 watts, and with the homebrew power supply, probably weighed about 90 pounds. We had a homebrew little vertical that we'd build out of welding rods. And so that's what we did. Well, Mr. Rogers helped us get ready for our exams. I found out it was okay for a kid to call a grown-up by his first name on the radio. That just wasn't done anywhere else. And it didn't matter who they were, but my dad winced every time I called a particular full bird Air Force colonel by his first name. That was just too much for him. Well, I was licensed as KN7SAI, and he became KN7SAJ. And the N was for novices, and when we upgraded, the N was dropped, and I was just K7SAI after that. Well, with that radio out of the bomber, I was able to talk clear into North Orem or Provo. My first contact was K7KHB in North Orem. It's probably 3 or 4 miles away, but it was sensational. I'd never done anything like that. Like I say, my dad had it for the Civil Air Patrol. Don't be intimidated by HF. You could not possibly do worse than I did the first time. You're going to see why. Our HF station was very old stuff from the late 1940s that we had been given. This was my transmitter. We were clueless about HF or CW. This thing put out about 17 watts. You couldn't use VFOs on your transmitters back then. We had 2 crystals, and our really long wire was 30 feet long, went out of the window, up on a hook on the wooden eaves and out to the pear tree. I don't know if it even had any insulators, and I'm sure we didn't have anything decent ground to work against. We'd had some instant success on 2 meters and had some fun, so we decided we were going to try HFCW. Well, my dad turned on these boat anchors. We tuned it up into a light bulb, which is what we use for a dummy load. Have you done that? Yes. Connected to the antenna. Now, get this. It's broad daylight on a Sunday afternoon in 1961, and we're on 80 meters. Now, if you know anything about 80 meters, it goes nowhere in the daytime. Nowhere. But we didn't know any better. So he called CQ. And somebody answered us. It couldn't have been very far away, but we never found out because we both totally froze up, and neither one of us could even copy the call letter. And to get out of that situation, my dad sent QRM, which is interference from other stations, an obvious lie, turned off the radios, and we were both shaking. So you can't do worse than that. Well, at the time, I was probably the youngest ham in their area. I was 12 years old. There were lots of high school kids that were hams, but I was quite a bit younger than they were. Now, get this. My voice hadn't changed yet, and everybody thought I was a girl. So humiliating. And then even worse than that, when they found out I was a boy, they started calling me old man. I didn't like that either. For Pete's sake, I was 12 years old. Well, I did get better at CW. We both did. But I kind of retreated from the world of phone and hid behind my key where nobody could tell that I sounded like a girl. But in 6 months, my little kid's brain had slurped up CW to the point that I was pretty good at it. And I moved up from, just messed up entirely. Typical, huh? I advanced from the World War II hand key to a Japanese bug semi-automatic. No, not a handgun.
Do you still have that?
I do.
I didn't want to see one.
I do. Yeah. It was cheap at the Lafayette radio store. It wasn't a Vibraplex that cost about 10 times as much. I was a kid, you know. Well, my little kid's brain slurped up that CW, and I got pretty good at it. And I'd made hundreds of CW contacts, and I could do 20 words a minute. Well, a novice license was only good for one time for 1 year. You couldn't renew it and you could never get it again. So it was upgrade or die. So I took the technician exam, which you could get from a volunteer examiner. At that time, it had the same 5-word-a-minute code test as the novice, but it had the same written test as the general. So it wasn't a pushover, but I passed. And for a weird little while, I was a novice and a technician because they didn't have identical privileges. I could use CW as a novice and I could use 2 meters with either call. We could run high power on 2 meters, but nobody had anything over 10 watts anyway. At least I didn't have to say I was a novice. Well, once a quarter, the scary FCC examiners came to Salt Lake. My mom dropped off this 13-year-old little kid off at the building. I found my own way. I went into this room full of grown men. I was the only kid in there. These scary looking, like IRS auditor types. They give the CW exam and almost everybody fails. It's 13 words a minute. I passed. They give you the written test. I went through it. I was done. I looked around. Nobody else was done. I thought I'd really messed up. I went over all again. I got up and walked out, convinced I'd undoubtedly failed, but I didn't. I got my general. And at that time, a general had full amateur privileges, and I was set. Okay, enough about the Deer Annette question. What is HF, and why would you want to use it? Well, it's the bands between 80 and 10 meters, or about 3 and 30 megahertz. Some people count 160 in there, but it's actually a medium frequency band. Well, why do you want to use it? Because you can talk a long ways away. No repeaters, no internet. You can actually talk to Australia or Idaho or whatever. Well, how does it work? Radio waves propagate in 2 ways. They go by ground wave or sky wave. When you hear the local AM radio station, it's ground wave. But you can go a long ways if that signal will go up and somehow come back down to Earth. The vehicle for that's called the ionosphere, and it only exists because the sun creates it. It's beating down on whatever is up there to the point it causes ionization. The net result, and this is a gross oversimplification, is it acts like a mirror to RF. So what goes up reflects and comes back down at the same angle it hit, and the path usually goes both ways. Well, what's an ion? I thought somebody might ask. If you were in high school chemistry, it's an atom that's no longer neutral. It's either had an electron knocked out or an extra one jammed in there. Usually knocked out in this case because the sun's beating down on this layer. Once it's an ion, it's very reflective to RF, and that's what we have. And there's basically 3 layers of ionosphere around the Earth. They're like the layers of an onion. There's the D, the E, and the F. Why aren't there A, B, C? Because nobody knew what they were going to find when they started experimenting. And so they left space. Okay, for people that are hair splitters, the F layer is actually 2 parts, F1 and F2, but we don't care tonight. The D layer forms during the daytime. The sun is beating down really hard below it. It's close to the Earth, and it's a low-frequency RF sponge. That's why you can't hear AM radio farther than your local stations during the day. That's why 80 meters isn't going to go very far during the day, or 160. It just eats it up. It does go away at night. However, during the day, the higher frequencies penetrate deeper into the ionosphere. So 20 meters goes right through that like nothing, goes up and hits the F2 layer back down. It's great. 80 gets eaten alive. Well, the E layer is a little higher. It's not of much use. It is used for, sometimes you get sporadic E on 6 meters and 10 meters, and that's going on right now because it's summertime and it's getting a lot of direct solar radiation right down on us at the summer solstice. Almost all of the propagation that goes a long way is through the F layer. Have I lost anybody yet? I'm sorry, I'm going fast, but I wanted to cover all of this. This is stuff you should know for field day or any HF operation, and I hope I'm not going so fast. Maybe you already know this stuff. If you do, I hope someone's learning something here. Well, there's one more thing to know. This is the summary of what I just said. Now, if you look at this plot of the Earth with signals, you see that yellow one that's going between the two towers? That's a low frequency signal that's going up into the ionosphere, but not very far, and it's being refracted down. It goes a fair amount, a fair distance, but not as far as the ones on the right. The little squiggly one that's going out into space is a VHF signal. It might have some impact by the ionosphere, but because it's a shorter wavelength and a higher frequency, it passes through and it goes off into space. It's never gonna come back unless a moon bounce or something. Those that are red ones are being refracted from the ionosphere up in the F layer, and they're coming down quite a ways away. So what I want you to know is VHF's almost always going to go through. The D layer eats up the low bands during the day. It goes away at night. So at night, 160, 80, 40, those bands get much, much better because the D layer has gone away. So they go up and refract off the F layers. However, at night, that 20 meters that was working great might go too deep and go right on through. So the bands could go dead. There's only one more thing I'm going to tell you about the whole propagation thing. I've taught it at DX University. It takes at least an hour to do it decent, and I'm going really fast. There's a cycle called the solar cycle. It takes about 11 years, and it's a cycle of solar activity. The greater the solar activity, the greater the number of sunspots, the better HF propagation is, especially on the high bands. And if you look off to the right, we're down in that dip again. The last bump was the worst one in 100 years. I get back on after 20 years of inactivity and I wait through the last bottom and I get that. Now I'm back at the bottom again. I don't know if I've got another one left in me. Antennas. Everything works, and I mean everything. Somebody says, oh, I use this Wonder antenna and I got Japan. Okay. Everything works. Now, this is hilarious. I had to put this in. I was interested in a contest, and I got on 15 meter CW. And I had my 100-watt radio, and I started tuning across the band. It was really bad, and I could only hear one station strong enough that I thought I could work him. And I called him when he called CQ, and he answered somebody else. I tried again. He answered somebody else. It went on and on and on. And finally, he came back to me and gave me a really crappy signal report. And that's when I realized I wasn't connected to an antenna, but a dummy load. My shack is in the basement in American Fork, surrounded by cement. I worked Louisiana on a dummy load with 100 watts. So when I say anything works, it does. But good antennas work way better. This is the finest DX station in Utah. It's owned by Mark Richardson, W7HPW, really good friend of mine down in Payson. That bottom beam is so huge, it dwarfs everything else. It's a real heavy-duty 72-foot tower. That bottom beam is a 3-element 40-meter Yagi, full size. The driven element would be about 66 feet. The reflector would be about 70 feet. So that thing's as wide as it is high in the sky. Has a 3-element 30-meter Yagi interlaced. And that little dinky VHF antenna up on top is actually a 12-element Tenedyne log periodic for 20 meters and up. That big beam just dwarfs everything else. And that's not all of his antennas. That's just the one I'm going to show you right now. Well, to maximize DX, off of that ion layer, it works kind of like skipping a stone. You take that and you throw it across the surface at a low angle, it kind of blips up. It'll skip. You throw it straight down and it's going to go plop. Well, the same thing happens off the ionosphere. Sometimes it's not very heavily ionized. And if you can hit that at a grazing angle, it'll come down far away. Now, it might just also get to wherever you're going, but it takes more hops. The blue signal came in at a low angle. It came down on another continent in one hop. No, actually, it can't go that far, but in this illustration. The red signal got there, but it would certainly be weaker because it had 3 hops and it loses strength every hop. So if you can have a low angle, it's better. Horizontal antennas are better the higher they are. Verticals are inherently good with low angle anyway. I'm telling you this so you can have a little bit of appreciation to how to work contacts on field day. Well, field day is a field exercise. Almost all of the stations you're going to work are going to be on your own continent. High angle will work just fine. You don't need to get something really far off. And it is a field exercise. It really should have some practical value. Well, my first field day was in 1975. I was yet again, since nobody would take the job, the emergency coordinator for the amateur radio emergency service. And 4 of us took my Atlas 180. It was probably the first all solid state HF radio. It was 100 watts. People used it in their cars. It wasn't really that great of a radio, but it was all solid state. So we took that thing with some low dipoles and we went up to Lindsay Lake by Heber. We put up some low wires and we made 550 contacts just running it off of a car battery. We came in 55th place nationally in Class 1A, one transmitter in a club kind of group. Nothing to brag about, that was for sure. But the thing I remember most, my brand new expensive 2-meter radio. One of my friends hooked it up to the battery backwards. The polarity protection was the first thing that blew, and he shredded my new radio. Well, I lost interest in the thing after that. Eventually, my friend John Lloyd got it fixed, but it took 3 rounds of failure, so that doesn't matter. Well, the next time was 3 years later, and I operated with a secret Army security agency field day operation at Camp Williams. Part of that statement is true. But I'm going to tell you why I said this, because it's kind of funny. Now it's 1978. And a good friend of mine, Dave, WA7GIE, you may know him. He's involved with a lot of repeaters like out in Colville and that. He worked for the Army out at Camp Williams then. And he said, I can get you on the base, I'll get you a generator, and you can come out here and operate with your little group. There's never more than 4 or 5 of us. And I just got out of guard the fall before, so I knew about it. We went out and decided we were going to operate from this little bump of a mountain called Latimer. It's like 300 feet high. It's dry, it has no vegetation, it's windy, it's only got a couple of things going for it. You can drive there, and there's this telephone pole right on top of it. So we operated from Latimer. We put up a 3-element tri-bander and some wire dipoles, and we upped our score considerably. We got 900 more contacts, up to 1450 total. It was good enough for 13th place nationally in Class 1A again. Now here's the funny part. I later heard that Dave had spread word around the base that there would be a special Army security agency. ASA is the Army's version of the NSA. That ASA unit would be running a field exercise on Latimer. There would be strange things going on. We were not to be disturbed, and you were to stay the hell away from us. And it worked. So we went back the next year. In 1979, this year we had a 40-meter 2-element beam that we put up, and we upped it again, 450 contacts, and we were to 1,900 total. It was 5th place nationally. So that ASA thing's kind of a hoot. I didn't know he said that till after, but it worked. Well, the ARRL says that field day is an operating event and not a contest. Now, contesters in Europe it's called radio sport. And radio sport warriors say then, if it's not a contest, then why do you keep score? Okay. It looks like a contest. This is Utah DX Association up on Skyline Drive a few years ago. And this is one of the towers, a 100-foot tower with a 4-element Yagi. I mean, this is what happens when you have maniacs do field day. We made 3,900 contacts with 3 transmitters. But this is not typical. And I'm just showing this because it's kind of humorous. This is more like what you can expect from a field operation. There's a nice field day Yagi. I took these off the club website last year. Typical antennas, wire dipoles, winter field day, summer field day, and verticals can work too. I'm going to talk a little bit about basic contesting. Yeah, well, I could tell you all about this station. We're not going to take that much time. I think I'll tell you about those Brown amplifiers or Alpha 77s. They run 2 8877s. I don't think I even know how much they will put out. And I'm sure they're conservative at 1,500 watts, aren't you? Well, there's different levels of competition, especially in field day. It's meant for new people. You don't need to be cutthroat maniacs. It's meant for new people to come out. It's meant for you to enjoy the mountains, have a good time, have a good meal, camp, learn something about operating from the field, and get some experience. And there's the other extreme, the serious competitors that really go for it. Now, I don't know what this club's going to do this year, but there are no wrong answers. Anywhere in between there is fine. You don't need to win. You need to learn something, and especially the new people, get some experience. Now, if you do decide to get serious, the GOTA station, which is Get on the Air, is completely for beginners. No stress, no pressure. I maybe have made it sound like that you have to be really competitive. You really don't have to in field day, and you certainly don't have to at the GOTA station. Let your kids learn how. Field days rules aren't like any other contests. This is a card from Amsterdam Island. It's a little speck over in the Indian Ocean. It's within a couple of 100 miles of the exact opposite from us on the Earth, the antipod. It's almost identically the same distance in any direction. Now, if we work Amsterdam Island, it doesn't count any more than somebody a mile away, as long as they're not in your own group. They don't care. There's no signal reports, and there's no multipliers. I'm going to tell you what a multiplier is, just in case you want a contest in something else. Let's say in a contest you get 1 point for a contact, and the multipliers are states. You make 100 contacts in 35 states. Well, your score is the 100 times 35, so your score is 3,500. You make one more contact, 101, it's 101 times 35. But if instead of a same state, you get 101 times 36, your score goes up a heck of a lot more than 1 point. So getting multipliers is a big deal in most contests. I just wanted you to know what they are, but that doesn't apply in field day. There are things that do apply. Phone contacts are worth 1 point. Digital and CW are worth 2 points. A good top phone operator can make more QSOs an hour than a top CW operator. But if they're using computers, not by much, and the CW contacts count double. In the past, digital contacts have never been able to come close to either of those rates, but FT8's a new thing now, and it's much faster. It'll be interesting to see how important digital becomes. Rate is everything in getting a good score. How fast you can make contacts. Use few words and talk fast, Kimosabi. And always use standard phonetics. It'll aid things going through. Now, these are the right ones. The ones over on the left. It's labeled NATO phonetic, Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta. It's not the only one that was ever invented. On the right, it's the World War II allies. Abel Baker, Charlie Dog, and there's the one that some police forces uses that are names. Use the one on the left, but be a little flexible. I'm going to have some examples here in a minute of how to make contacts. And I'm going to show you how to shift between those if someone has a hard time getting your call. I have one exception. My old call was K7SAI, and I had trouble with Sierra. You talk to someone who's Spanish speaking or an American, they know darn well what Sierra is. You talk to somebody, it's not their first language, and Sierra sounds like C. So I used to use sugar out of the World War II one sometimes. I think the English skills of worldwide operators have improved. It's probably not such a big deal as it was back then. I changed calls in 1977. And here's a little quirk in America. Who is Zed? Well, our alphabet has a lot of letters that sound the same. B, C, D, E, G, P, T, V, and then there's Z. All of the English-speaking languages in the world that I'm aware of, other than America, the last letter of the alphabet isn't Z, it's Z. So show your sophistication. Yes?
Yeah, when I moved down here from Canada, I was always talking to people about ZCMI, and nobody knew what the heck it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Z isn't a phonetic. It's the name of the letter. Zulu's the phonetic. Z is the name. And if you're on HF and like the New Zealanders are ZL, South Africans are ZS. QRZ, yeah. We're going to talk about QRZ here in a minute. Now, another interesting thing, YL's voices are higher pitched and they really stand out on the band. A YL operator will attract more calls than one of us gravelly voiced old men. So it's an advantage for YLs, or probably when I was 12 if I'd exploited it. Well, we're going to talk how to do it. This is a good friend of mine, Jared Smith, N7SMI, and he's running a pilot from Willis Island down in the Coral Sea off of Australia. Jared knows how to do it. He does all the things we just talked about. And being an expedition is the worst case of people trying to get a hold of you. In a contest, there's two ways to go. There's running and there's search and pounce. Now, when you're running, you want them to come to you and keep coming to you. You call CQ, they come back to you. They keep coming and coming and coming. And if you've got a good signal, that can happen. We're going to talk now about how to actually make field day contacts. And I'm going to do it real fast. I'm going to use a minimum of words. I actually looked at the video on how to use the login program the club's going to be using. And the guy who wrote it was starting off, oh, thanks for the call and all this stuff. Well, that's fine if you're casual. If you want a good rate, you leave all that stuff out. You say the minimum of words, use clear phonetics, and you speak quickly, but with good articulation. So let's say we're operating the club call. CQ field day, CQ field day. Kilo 7, Uniform Victor Alpha. Kilo 7, Uniform Victor Alpha, field day. You don't need to say this is or anything. You need to put field day in there because not everybody on the band is interested in it, although they're going to get driven off with that particular contest. Now, let's say someone calls you. They don't need to send your call, but they might. You know who you are. They know who you are. Let's say WE7CB calls us. They just say Whiskey Echo 7 Charlie Bravo. You come back, say Whiskey Echo 7 Charlie Bravo 3 Alpha Utah. That's all you say. The 3 is the number of transmitters I heard them say we're going to have. A is the group, club kind of group, and the ARRL section. Utah is a state, but it's also our ARRL section. A lot of states are the same, but some that have greater populations have multiple sections within them, like California, for example. Now, what happens if you get more than, you finish WEC with him, Whiskey Echo 7 Charlie Bravo, 3 Alpha Utah. He comes back and gives you 1 Alpha Utah. You say QSL, the contact is finished. QRZ, and your call. You don't need to say, thanks for the contact, looking for more contacts. And I don't know how these Q signals that were designed for CW ever got into phone, but they are. QSL is the end of the contact. QRZ really means, who was calling me? I didn't get your call, but it's been loosely interpreted now to mean kind of a CQ, an invitation to be called. And what happens? Now, this is the most wonderful part. You get a bunch of people calling you. Let's say you get 2 people calling you. You get WE7CB and you get the ARRL headquarters W1AW. You hear both of them calling you after you've called CQ. Just pick one. Whiskey Echo 7 Charlie Bravo 3 Alpha Utah. He sends you his. You say QSL, and then you go to the other one. Whiskey 1 Alpha Whiskey 3 Alpha Utah. And he gives it. And then you say QSL, QRZ, K7 UVA in phonetics. Does that make sense? Yeah. Talk fast, be efficient. It can make a huge difference in how many contacts you can make in a set time. Okay, expeditions get into a rhythm. You'll call them, they'll answer. You'll call them, they'll answer. They go bing, 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 bing. They don't let anybody keep calling. They'll talk over the top of them. They usually work in split anyway, and they will actually go so far as to invent a call so that they transmit in the correct sequence to keep it from dragging on. And when you're running, be polite, but be assertive. There's no excuse for rude behavior on the air. But if you're calling, you've been running on a frequency for an hour and somebody else comes on and starts calling CQ, say, the frequency's in use, please QSY and QRZ, Kilo 7 Uniform Victor Alpha. And if they're decent, they'll move. They don't need to say, oh, I'm sorry, But when you start calling CQ someplace, listen and be sure it's clear. And that's really hard in a contest like Field Day. It's so busy. Say something like, is the frequency in use? Don't keep asking over and over because somebody will come along and say, yeah, I'm taking it. Ask once and then call CQ. If someone comes back and says, the frequency's in use, just move. You don't need to apologize profusely. It's a waste of time for them and you. Being loud helps, but be polite but assertive. Hold on to that frequency if you can. Sooner or later, you'll stop getting answers to your CQ. You can run faster and make more contacts than the other scenario, which is called search and pounce. That is, you start on one end of the band and you tune till you hear somebody calling CQ and you call them. Whiskey 1 Alpha Whiskey, Kilo 7 Uniform Victor Alpha, or just say Kilo 7 Uniform Victor Alpha. You'll do the exchange and he'll say QRZ. Continue on. You go up to the next one. Now, the logging program will help you determine that you have not worked this station on the same mode and same band. You can work my old call, K7 SAI. You can work that on phone. You can work it on digital, and you can work it on CW, all on the same band, like 20 meters. You cannot work it again on phone or any of those others. You can work all 3 again on, say, 40 meters. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. If everybody's running, you're all saying CQ and nobody's tuning around, you never find each other. So there does come a time when you need to do search and pounce. And you will run out of people in the middle of the night on 80 meters that you've worked everybody. And that's why you can't win from here. In the East Coast, they've got a lot more population within range of 1 hop on 80 meters than we're ever going to have. Okay, I know I went really fast. I hope I didn't lose you. You have questions? Yes?
Bryce, I noticed that when we call CQ a lot of times, I prefer not to give my 3A Utah till I grab that out the distant ends, whatever 1 Alpha, wherever they're at. Because if I don't catch them before I give mine, they will go away and I will miss them.
I don't know what to say to that.
But you know what I'm saying?
Once you confirm that you have their call letter and you say it phonetically, send the exchange, and they should do the same. People who don't do it right, I don't know what to say. Oh, I left out one other thing though. One, I probably left out a lot, but if you get a partial call when somebody calls and you hear like Whiskey Delta 5, say the Whiskey Delta 5, go ahead. That's what you do. Oh, I left out another thing I somehow glossed over. When you're on phone on sideband, it is never as clear as it is on FM. The fidelity is never as good. You'll have noise, you'll have interference, you'll have fading. And if you're slightly mistuned, it'll sound like Donald Duck. It'll never sound as good as you're used to on FM. And the radios might look more complicated. They're not really that much so. They've got a volume AF, audio gain. You've got that on your 2-meter rig. They've got RF, which is sensitivity. You probably leave that all the way up. It's got a band switch. You got that 2 meters or 70 centimeters on your radio probably now. It isn't that much more complicated. It just has a dial that you can move it continually rather than in memory steps. More questions, please. Wow. I either bored you or you got it. 73 from me. Yeah.
You might mention, Bryce, that you have an online book that's available with a lot of that information and more.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I brought some business cards, but I was too shy to put them out. I make a vast amount of money by giving it away. And I don't know how many I've given away. It's in 13 or 14 languages. You can get a link from my QRZ page or k7ua.com. It's also as an audio book. It's in a bunch of different languages. And I thought it had probably died down some. And I looked this week to see how many had gone out. 3,500, 3,400 were unique. So I'm giving out about 500 a day still, which is mind-boggling. I know I sent out 40,000 in Romanian a couple of years ago. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Bryce. That was awesome. Again, we'd invite you all up to field day. It's going to be great. Let's see, where's the...
I have a question about the field day.
Go ahead.
For people who've never been on HF, it's going to be a scary thing to pick up that mic and attempt to do what you just saw happen here. Are there going to be like chaperones at each station?
Yes. Yeah, we'll have licensed operators at every station. So if you don't have a license or you're only a technician or whatever, we will have licensed operators at every station. They will guide you through. You can sit and listen to them for a while if you want. When you're comfortable, you can get in there and jump in. We always need help logging. If you want to log, that's great.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead.
That very thing? Sometimes if you're unsure or uneasy and you want to sit down and log. It's not hard to log. And after you sit there for an hour and log, all of a sudden, all that stuff just starts clicking. And then you can get behind the mic and go for it. So, yeah, logging is a good way to get a good experience.
Yep. And if you just want to have experience talking on the radio without the pressure of field day going on, that's why we've got the Get on the Air station there. You can go over to the Get on the Air station and just make some casual contacts, have a rag chew with somebody somewhere if you want, and just no pressure. So we've got all of those different situations covered. Just come up and have fun. Any other questions?
I was just going to say too, if any of you are interested in operating HF prior to field day, if you put a post just on Facebook, there's a ton of us that would love, that actually do love to have people come over and operate their station. If you guys want to try it out even before field day, make a quick contact in California or someone down in Texas, and just kind of, get over that. I call it the PTT mic shy, right? Being PTT shy. I remember I got my license and it took me, I think it was about 3 months before I finally built up the courage to call Gordon, K7HFV, And now he can't get me to shut up. So
Pretty much.
He came over to my house. Another guy came over to my house. They got me all set up. Thanks,
Yep.
guys.
And yeah, and you know, it's great. The ham community just loves to help people get going. If you got questions about getting stuff set up at your house, just ask somebody. They'll point you in the right direction. Okay, we'll turn time over to Noji. Everybody get a ticket. All right.
And I don't mean on the way over here. I mean, in the meeting. Okay, everybody's got a ticket, very good. Okay, we're gonna just really have like 35 seconds, so we're gonna make this really fast. Welcome, Bill. And so, this is how we're gonna do it. Number one, we are going to choose the 2 grand prize winners right off the bat. But first, we need to have a volunteer who can draw for us. Got 3 seconds. Any volunteers? Wendy, your hand went up first. Sorry, Tyler. Is that Tyler back there? Yeah, sorry. Wendy was first. All right. Now, Wendy is going to be our drawer, and she's going to draw the first 2 winning tickets who will be the grand prize winners. Here we are. And she's going to take those 2 tickets and place them in this envelope, which will be sealed, hermetically sealed in the yard. Bunkin Wago Sports new today. Okay, so there we go. And the 2 grand prize, if you can grab that little stick over there, we have this actual handheld ham radio transceiver and an accompanying J-pole. Working. Good. Okay, there we go. Now, in the meantime, we've got other prizes, and what we're going to do this time is when you win a prize, you actually can get up here and pick whatever prize you want to do. So, drum roll, please. You can't drum roll really quickly. Okay, the first number is, that's just the last 3.
700.
700. Please come forward. And this is Ken. As he's making his way forward, we're going to pick the next one. Let's really have 20 seconds left.
712.
712. Please forward, Rick. Yay. All right, Ken, you get first pick. You got to hurry before Rick gets up here. I'm on all of
Okay.
Let's take away the 2 grand prizes over here. And any of these things, except for the microphones, you can have.
and don't take the monitor either.
That's a hand mic for a golf.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, congratulations. Very good. The next number is
744.
744. Mr. Colton. Clap, 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 clap. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Put the pose in there, friend. Anything to go. All right. Is it tough yet now?
Yes, it is. 10, 9.
All right, here we go. We got 11 seconds left.
747.
747. Marlo, come forward, please. Yay. All right, pick anything you like, Marlo. I'm okay. Except for
727.
747.
747.
Like the jet.
Sorry, Linda.
That's all right. Next time.
You know what? It might be yours next. All right.
Yeah. Got this.
All right, good, Marlo. This is for you, Phil.
They're still flying in.
704.
704. Please come forward. Thank you, congratulations. That is an antenna. It's not quite as good as a signal stick, but it is a second-rate, pretty good antenna.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
Okay.
Congratulations. Next number is
762.
762. Please come forward, Taylor. Oh, it's Bryce. I mean, Brian. Brian. I'm going to call you Bryce. This is Brian. No, you gotta be fancy. We have the first one. There we go. Oh, yes.
Right there. 740.
740. Mr. Scott Warren. We only need two more, and we got to quit.
Don't you have guys online asking where their tickets are?
Right here, something. Must be present.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, you got to be present to win.
698.
698.
Yeah.
Matt, speaker mic. You get your choice of these illustrious and expensive presents. Next number, the last number besides the two grand prizes are
719.
719. There you go. Unfortunately, you get to have what's left. There's a couple good things.
Yeah.
All right, very good. All right, now for the grand prize. Wait, here she is. Wendy will now read to you one of the two grand prizes. Which should we do first? It's another radio.
Okay.
Okay, let's do the antenna first. Okay, she says antenna. So this wonderful, absolutely marvelous antenna made by Carl Parkers himself. And the number is
761. Woohoo!
This is really good.
Are you going to mount that on your
This
truck
is really
like
good
Carl
because
does
Jeremy's
his?
never seen one of these before.
I think you should mount it on your truck.
I don't have one on my truck.
What's going on my wife's car?
All right, and here we are, down to the last minute.
This is really good for roasting marshmallows.
An
And it's-
actual ham radio transceiver.
And it's not me.
And by the way, 8 watts, like Bryce was talking about, only not 90 pounds. So
90 kilograms. All right.
7, 2, 3.
All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for coming out. It's been a great meeting. Again, thanks to Bryce. That was awesome. We are going to the Shake Maker. Shake Maker. For those of you who don't know, sometimes a bunch of us will get together after the meeting this month's at the Shake Maker and just have a great time, get a shake or a burger or whatever, and continue the eyeball QSOs. Okay, so if you're going there, we'll see you there. Thanks for coming. Remember, next month's the potluck at the Orem City Senior Center, Friendship Center. Picnic on Saturday.